Welcome to the Italian Innovators course, which is related to the Italian Innovators podcast on the YouTube channel. So this course is divided in three parts. The first part will deal with Italian ages. So it's a cultural history of Italy in 12 lessons. The second part is related to Italian modernities, so Italy's impact in the modern world. This will be 10 lessons. And lastly, the part dedicated to Italian beauties, 4 lessons dedicated to 4 key features that may make Italian beauty distinctive. In the first part, Italian ages, we'll talk about the development of Italian cultural identities through the ages. So from the fall of the Roman Empire to the development of Middle Ages, from Dante and his imagination of the comedy to the perception and the pursuit of a new world. We'll move then from the Middle Ages to humanism and Renaissance, and we'll consider the marvelous century of the Italian Baroque in the 17th century and the emergence of Italian on the international opera scene in the Settecento, especially around the cities of Venice, Naples, and Milan. We'll consider then the political process of Risorgimento in the 19th century, so the Italian resurgence leading to national unification, and the years that follow the unification, which are the years of the great industrialization and great migration, leading into the 20th century with the Great War, the advent of fascism, the dictatorship, and then World War II, up to the contemporary age with the economic boom after World War II and Italy's contemporary excellence and prolonged excellence despite a state of continuous crisis. So after the first 2 lessons in August, all the other lessons of Italian ages will be published on the 7th of each month. Italian Modernities is the second module and is composed of 10 lessons which aim at analyzing and examining from a cultural and industrial point of view Italy's contribution to the modern age. So we'll consider the sector of food, the industry and culture of food. We'll consider fashion, the development of communication in photography, in cinema, but also in the development of a simultaneous age through the age of telegraphy, telephony, radio, TV, and then the internet. We'll see how Italy develops a particular idea of time and how around bicycles, Italy not only constructs its mechanical industry, but also experiences such as sports and tourism, which are key to understanding the national imagination. We'll see how Italy is a protagonist in the development of modern transportation and in the development of new knowledge. So, for example, in the development of computing. And lastly, we'll talk about Italian design in advertising, in the drawing, in the planning of objects, and in the designing of spaces in architecture. So the lessons of Italian modernities will be released on every 21st day of each month until June. And lastly, in the months of July and August, we'll consider the 4 elements that comprise Italy's peculiar beauty. So the savoir-faire, the know-how, the ability in making things, which also coincides with the ability of enjoying them, so knowing how to live. We'll observe creativity and cultural imagination as a key element in the creation of a unique setting for the development of a unique, peculiar kind of beauty. We'll see how diversity of traditions, cuisines, languages contributes to make Italy one of the richest and most diverse areas and nations in the world. And of course, we'll talk about heritage as a key component. So the cultural heritage of Italy as a key component to its success and global recognition. So these lessons are a way to ground the contents of the Italian Innovators podcast, which is really telling the stories of great modern Italians in the fields of technology, fashion, business, from the 19th century in the first season to the present in the second season and third season. And episodes are released on the 1st and the 15th of each month. In the first, I normally give a presentation of a great Italian innovator like Milena Canonero in costume design, Brunello Cucinelli in fashion, Bottura in cooking, Ferrero in the chocolate industry, Samantha Cristoforetti in the aerospace industry, Gaia Olenti in architecture, and Ferruccio Lamborghini in car making, for example, or Ennio Morricone in music. And on the 15th of each month, I will publish an interview with figures that are at the top of their profession and are particularly innovative. So, for example, in the case of Clea Zammateo, founder of Clio Makeup. All episodes are published on Spotify, Spreaker, and iTunes as well. Episodes and classes are related to a notion of heritage, which we'll discover in the Italian approach to archaeology, architecture, painting, or sculpture, to know-how, so in design and fashion, but also in science and technique, and also in a peculiar relationship between tradition and innovation, so the ability to retrieve in tradition the occult forces that once made it come alive, and to use them, channel them in the creation of new forms. Also, we'll consider Italy's diversity in cities, landscapes, and its piazzas that are really places where all these plurality of voices gathers and is negotiated constantly. And lastly, how cultural imagination from cinema, songs, opera, classical music, and above all literature impacts the development of new forms. I want to start this presentation with a famous quote by Aristotle, which states that wonder is the beginning of wisdom. Both in the podcast and in the lessons, I want to give a presentation of an Italy that is a site of awe, marvel, and wonder, and not necessarily a site that is being already pre-packaged in its stereotyped images and visions. So in this sense, wonder is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge, but learning and the pleasure of learning is really, in my opinion, the beginning of innovation, of this attitude in creating, recreating, inventing, taking the initiative, and producing forms that are imitated throughout the world. So enjoy the ride.